So you told us about how you were first at public affairs department and then grew into corporate citizenship and now you are at corporate social responsibility. So can you tell us why CSR initiatives have grown or like become more transparent over the last decade?
For us or in general?
Both.
Both. For us, I think, okay, I'll start with the in general. I think there's a real sense that what used to be best practice is now sort of the cost of doing business, right? Like, number one, even if you wanted to be a bad actor now, it's going to be pretty hard. We're in a really global world. We're all connected. I'm thinking of it maybe in this one specific context where we're talking about factory work or something like that, or how we're shipping and all these things. But it's easy to learn information, and I think that makes it a whole lot less easy to brush things under the rug and to just think that they're good enough.
I just wanted to ask you, man, you've mentioned a couple of different spheres, sort of, I guess, in which CSR plays out. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about that, about sort of the difference you see between, for instance, like corporate volunteerism and then like looking at your supply chain or looking at your HR practices, and like how does that sort of break down? Like, what is the role of CSR in all of these different sectors, and then how do they sort of interact with each other?
Yeah, great question. So, a really common thing people say in CSR is if you do your job really well, you'll put yourself out of business, right? Like you won't exist, because I'm not an HR professional, but the best I can be at my job is really equipping our HR team at thinking really progressively and having the right tools to be really advanced in what they're doing for our employee population.
But you touched on the trend of fast fashion, and where that's really kind of comes in like as cheap as possible in the production cycle, which kind of may lead to then abusive sourcing practices.
Mm-hmm.
So in your position, kind of what have you seen as a way to navigate that space?
Yeah, that's really hard, and I don't think there's a perfect answer for that. I do think we're starting to see those couple. I mean, there's a couple major ones. I'm sure we're all thinking of the same three right now. We're starting to see the immediacy. They almost overcorrected in the industry, right? And I think we're all getting fast fashion shopping fatigue a little bit. Um, but I still think it's a really powerful force.
I was wondering if you could touch again on this aspect of uh, of where Kenneth Cole can improve, but also where their strengths are.
The giant elephant in the room is there is absolutely no such thing as ethical fashion. It doesn't exist, right? It's always just the least of all evils. It unfortunately is really true. There's this really great documentary called True Cost. Definitely watch it. It's about the true cost of the fashion industry, um, and it's. I mean, it is startling, right? It's like if you look at all the major industries in the world, the most polluting, number one, energy, oil. Number two, fashion. You know, people throw away a disgusting amount of clothes, and then not to mention like how they're actually made, right? So they're really, you can, even as the best actor in the world with the best cleanest supply chain, you're still making new stuff in a place where we absolutely do not need new stuff. So I think the biggest things that are going to keep coming from us, and I think from the rest of the industry, are recycling and renting. Those are going to be huge. There really does not need to be any more clothes made ever, is my personal opinion. Now, if we have no more clothes made ever, I'm out of a job. So it's maybe not necessarily my professional opinion, but I think one of the big issues, we're having, like a lot of our counterparts, is we're an older company trying to retrofit an old system to meet these new goals and to take these new things into consideration. So I really applaud people like Everlane and all these new guys popping up that are starting out the right way, or at least like really in the best way you can, who can build their supply chains and their product processes to be great from the get-go. Um, you know, it, uh, for someone who works for the fashion company, for a fashion company, I buy a whole lot of secondhand clothes, because it's true that really is an issue. Where we're seeing some luck is in the ways, right? It almost reminds me of the subway, right? From New York. Like, the way to fix the subway would be to shut it down, to gut it, build it the right way, and open it back up. But you can't do that. And that's what I think about our supply chain too. In the best case scenario, we could close down everything for a full year, shutter the business, revamp everything, rework how we're doing it, where we're doing it, what we're making it out of, take all the old whatever. But like that's not reality. So the best we can do is these incremental changes.